Hey, welcome back, my little nightmares. It's me, Queen Nightmare, and I just had a scholarship interview. I made the lady cry. There were more tears of reminiscing about her sister, because that's what the scholarship was for. She put it in her name. I felt really awkward, and then I looked at the time. I was talking to them about 30 minutes, maybe even more than that. We were supposed to be only in there for less than 15. I think they liked me. I asked a question that they looked really, really, really surprised that I asked. Like, they looked at me, they're like, no one asked us that before. And I went, oh, it was just a question. So I feel awkward and I'm hot, so I'm going to take off my sweatshirt that I was wearing just for the interview. It's like peeling off a glove. Oh, I'm free. I can breathe. Okay. Chapter 23. Harry caught Severus on his way to breakfast. Oh boy. By the way, I read ahead. I shouldn't have, because I was getting ready for my interview and I was really had anxiety through the roof. So I read this. You ain't gonna like it. For some of it. Harry caught Severus on his way to breakfast. The potion master had just... Wait, this is the Snarry one. Sorry, I didn't notice that. This is the Snarry one. This is chapter 23. Harry caught Severus on his way to breakfast. The potion master had just left his rooms, plural, and he had to fight to keep his lips to himself. Being out in the hall, where anyone could see, provided the impetuous Harry needed to resist the urge. Impetuous? Am I saying it right? When Severus caught sight of him, he was graced with a rare smile. Before the man asked, "Come to escort me to breakfast?" Harry grinned. "Something like that, but I've got news too. The Dark Lord tried to get Knot last night. I wasn't sure how long it was going on." Hey, Mom! Welcome home. I have something to tell you. I'm back. Sorry. I had to tell my mom what happened at the thing. So I'm guessing I would have come back after, but it was late. I had the feeling Knot didn't want any more attention as it was. I would have been no aid at all. Going there directly sounds better. Now, how bad was it? Severus asked, as the two walked to the great hall. Having problems with my kidneys, and I'm being a bad example by drinking Coca-Cola. I'm a moron. Don't be like me. I'm a bad example. Not nearly as bad as the first time with you, but worse than anything since. I think it got that bad because I took so long to get to him. That's likely. He will not commit himself as fully as he did when he first tried to kill me. Not when he risks. Call him for the turtles. Having it turned back on him. You experienced the Dark Lord. You explained that the Dark Lord will probably not try again without reason. Yeah, I don't know if he trusted me or not, but I told him. They walked in silence for a few moments before Harry spoke again. Did you talk to him yourself? He asked me about when you decided to stop following the Dark Lord. I told him it wasn't my place to say, but I have a feeling he needs to talk to someone who understands. He said he didn't want to talk to you, but I suppose he was just saying that. Anyway, I figure you're probably the best person to help him. I'll do what I can for him, Severus replied. Though I am not entirely sure he trusts me. He certainly showed mixed reactions to me last night. He probably doesn't know who to trust at this point, Harry pointed out. They were nearing the Great Hall and no longer alone, so the potion master simply grunted in response. Before they parted company... Is it hot enough? Why am I touching meat without a fork? I'm a moron. Okay. Parted company. Severus stopped Harry and handed him half a quill and split down the center. He looked around to be sure no one was watching, and showed Harry the matching half he kept in his robe. Harry nodded in understanding and tucked the feather in the same pocket as the bit of cork. Then you don't know who's calling for you. You should put it on the opposite side. Am I the only one that thought that? Just put it on the opposite side. Freaking A. I'm traveling back into my room with my Mexican food. In the Great Hall, Ron and Hermione were already seated, and Ron moved over to give him room to sit at the end of the table. Hermione had a book open in front of her and was oblivious to the rest of the room. Everything okay, mate? Ron asked. You came in with Snape, didn't you? Yes, Ron, Harry said, a bit annoyed. He isn't out to torment me or anymore. You know, just because we came in together doesn't mean I was getting detention for breathing his air. Ron held up his hands in defense. Hey, wait, I didn't say that, did I? I meant, was everything okay with you-know-who and all that? Calm down. Sheepishly, Harry apologized and explained about the attack on Nott the night before. Ron forgave him for not waking him up once Harry explained that he did not know if he had much time, as well as assuring him that he had taken the cloak. So I went down to tell Professor Snape this morning. You've been spending a lot of time with Professor Snape lately, haven't you? Oh, well, Harry felt his face flush. He looked around to see if anyone else had heard Ron's comment. At the end of the table, they were all but alone. Outside of Hermione, who had shut out the world in favor of her textbook. I guess I can't be too far away if Voldemort tries something, Plus all the extra training and potions never was my best subject. So I might as well get whatever help I can now that we don't hate each other. And he's still giving me help with occlumency. That was not true. The last was not true, as Snape had already told him he had taught him as much as he knew. But of everything he knew, that was a reason then neither Ron nor Hermione would question. They knew nothing about what he was learning, so they never needed details. Right, and Ron smirked. You realize I've had 5 older brothers, right? I may not be the smartest guy in school, but I ain't the dumbest either. What do you mean? Harry tried to sound confused and hoped he was convincing. With the amount of teasing that goes on in my house, do you really think we can't spot someone with a crush from a mile away? Don't worry, I'm not going to tease you about it. Well, not in public, but Snape's pretty sharp. He's going to figure it out eventually. In a brief moment, Harry considered asking Ron if nibbling on the man's bottom lip was a giveaway, but decided against it. Sure, Ron's reaction would be worth seeing, but until he discussed it with Severus, he was going to keep his secret. I'll try to control myself, Harry said with a weary smile. Seriously, Ron said, I mean, I know Snape's a lot better than he used to be, but sometimes guys get freaked out about stuff like this. Mom's cousin Stu, the one Ginny told you about, he worked with a guy once who knew all about him and didn't care, or didn't seem to. Then one day, someone just as a joke, said that maybe Stu liked this guy. After that, he wouldn't even go in the same room with Stu if he could help it. It seems weird to say it, but I know you're thinking of Snape like a friend. Obviously, you're got pretty good good taste in friends, Ron grinned. And there's that stuff between you two and you can't tell us about, so even if I don't really get it, I guess you do. Anyway, if he gets all freaked out and acts like a jerk again, I'll have to kill him. And I don't want to end up in Azkaban. I don't think you have to worry about that, Ron, but I appreciate you saying it. It's great knowing you're okay with all this. Now Ron grew embarrassed. Well, you know how girls like gay guys, so I figure once word gets out that my best friend's gay, they'll all think I'm sensitive and stuff, and they'll be lining up for a piece of me. Harry laughed, and the two returned their attention to their waiting breakfast. Oh, this is going to be painful. Why didn't I record this when I had the chance? In potions class, Severus paired Ron with Nott. Before they headed to their cauldrons, Harry reminded Ron to give him the benefit of the doubt. Ron promised not to start anything with the other boy and avoid talking about the Dark Mark or Voldemort. As far as Harry could tell from across the room, the two seemed to work well enough together. At least there were no arguments. After classes finished, Harry rushed through his homework. He knew Severus was meeting with Nott after dinner, so he planned on giving them some time before heading to the dungeons himself. When he finally arrived at the bust of Salazar, I can't say it, don't worry, it's my tongue. He asked in Parseltongue, is Professor Snape alone? The bust hissed back in the negative, and Harry chose to wait in the hall until Nott left. Sorry, it's not what you think. It's not cheating or anything. It's just what happens next is painful, and this has happened to me before. It was getting late, which Harry took as a good sign. If they had been talking for that long, surely it had been constructive. No. Finally, the wall opened and Nott left, looking much as he had the previous night. When Harry saw him leave the rooms, Harry rushed into the suite before the door could solidify and pulled off his cloak. I waited outside for you to finish with Nott, Harry said, stepped close to Severus. So did you two talk? I don't believe Mr. Nott would want me discussing this with anyone else. Fair enough, Harry replied. It really was none of his business. He wrapped his arms around Severus and leaned in close. The older man stood stiffly, not responding to Harry's embrace. Is everything okay, Severus? I told you, I do not wish to discuss it. He pulled himself away from Harry's arms and walked to the table. Oh, okay, Harry just said, hurt but trying to be understanding. It is approaching curfew. You should not be out of your tower. You escaped like a princess from her tower. I'm sorry. I had to do that before I punch someone in the face for what he says next. Do not force me to take points from Gryffindor. Harry had heard enough serious threats from the man to tell that was not a joke. Taken aback, he felt his temper rise. He sure didn't mind me being out past curfew last night. He opened his mouth to say as much, but realized that arguing would likely result in either points lost or detention. Either way, he did not want to have to explain to Ron and Hermione. Cloak in hand, he took a deep breath and replied, Of course, Professor. I'm sorry to have bothered you. Turning on his heel, he stormed out of the room. The following day in potions class, Ron was again placed with Nott. Harry, for his part, did nothing to show he was upset at Severus. He did his work as he had done all term, and answered any question as well. He avoided looking at the other man, though whenever possible. Despite the long history between them, there was something about being dismissed in that manner that hurt Harry more than he wanted to admit. That night, the group had another training session. Harry was pitted against Jones and Severus, was as well as Hermione and Neville. He pushed his anger down and focused on the task at hand. As in the previous session, he was successful in avoiding most of the attacks all night. As for Severus, Harry paid him the same respect he gave Professor Jones. When the evening ended, he left with his friends, though normally he would have stayed back to share a private word with the potion master. Next day was much the same. Harry had decided that as Severus, no, Professor Snape was going to treat him like a student, he would in turn be treated like a professor. Snape made no effort to talk to Harry alone. Ron noted the distance between Harry and Snape, but Harry hid the underlying tension. Ron made a comment about Harry doing a good job being less obvious and left it at that. In the library before dinner, the group of friends sat in alternately doing bits of homework and chatting quietly. Harry was a bit surprised when Ron noticed Nott enter and waved the boy to their table. Nott, have you done potions homework yet? I was just going to do it now, the boy replied, eyeing the other students warily. Want to do it with us? Ron asked, then turned to his friends. He's pretty good with that stuff. Must be the Slytherin thing. Nott agreed, and within a half hour they had worked out the questions assigned to them. Though he was in no mood of talking to anyone, Harry forced himself to be civil to the boy. He was mad at Severus, after all, and taking it out on Nott would be unfair and certainly misinterpreted as distrust on his part. Nott still seemed a bit uneasy around them, but they all did their best to treat him like they would anyone else. He gave them a stiff thank you and then left when he got up to leave. No problem, Ron said. Anytime you want to work with us, just come on over. That was nice of you, Luna remarked. I don't think he has many friends left. I don't think so either, Ron agreed. I kind of got that feeling when we were working together in potions class. It's like he was just waiting for someone to accuse him of something or attack him. At least now he knows we won't, Neville said. 3 days after Harry had been expelled from Severus's rooms, the professor asked him to stay behind after class. Harry packed up his books but waited at his desk as the students filed out. "Yes, Professor?" Harry kept his voice even. "I simply wanted to let you know I will be in my chambers after dinner." That was it? That's his thoughts. "Okay, Professor," Harry replied, knowing that with the room empty, he could be using the man's given name. "If Voldemort tries anything, I'll go there directly when you alert me." That response got Snape's attention. "I meant you can come see me if you like. I doubt the Dark Lord will try anything." Harry wondered if the other man truly had no idea Harry was mad, or if he was pretending not to avoid a fight. He suspected the latter. "I think I'm better off in Gryffindor Tower, Professor. I'm used to being able to feel like dirt in the halls and here in the classroom, but unless you or not are in danger, I'd rather not be down here just to be insulted." "I don't know what you're talking about." Snape, I can't call him Severus. Snape crossed his arms. He crossed his arms on his chest defensively, signaling to Harry that he certainly did know why Harry was upset. Harry refused to let him get away with it. "Yes, you do. Taking points from Gryffindor?" You couldn't just tell me you wanted to be alone, or you didn't want to talk about it. I am still a professor here, and I have responsibilities. I had thought you understood that. That I understood. I understood that just fine. How can he say I'm at fault? If you want to take points off because I didn't do my homework, I can deal with that. If you have to give me detention for being late, I can handle that too. I don't expect you to turn a blind eye if I do something to deserve punishment, but the other night had nothing to do with that. It had to do with you humiliating me because you can." "Then you took the child's way out," Snape accused. "If you felt that way, you should have said something then." "No, I couldn't. You made it clear, Professor, that I was not welcome to speak at all. Ron and Hermione are prefects. They'd have known you took points away from me last night and would have asked why." "What do you expect me to say to them?" The potion master stood at his desk with no answer forthcoming. After several heartbeats, Harry turned and left the room. He knew his friends were in the library, so he chose to return to Gryffindor alone, where he stayed until dinner. He was torn between staying in the dorms and going down to the Great Hall. He was neither hungry nor in want of company. But Severus had all but called him a child, and he refused to be caught pouting. Man. Someone says, "I'll pout for you, Harry." No problem. Oh my gosh. Same. Hold on. I want to see what people said when he was yelling at him. "Hold on, my babies." Okay. 6. What? What happened? And of course, Cry Baby now plays when I tear up. Yes, but Cry Baby's a really good song. I don't tear up when Cry Baby happens. That someone said, "Oh, the F word." And the comment has been reported as offensive and is under review. Who cares? Oh, nope. Frick, no. No! Yeah, dude, you messed up. You do not do that. I'm sorry, but some people are like that. They yell at... I have done this before, which I have yelled at someone but I have told them that don't take me seriously sometimes when I yell at you, because sometimes I'm having a bad day and I just need to be left alone. But I didn't use my authority like he did. So I think Harry's more brokenhearted about Severus using his teacher way of putting it instead of he was bringing in teacher guy, not the one he was trying to talk to, and it kind of hurt, like he was abusing his authority. You know what I mean? At least he didn't bring in the Juliet laws. Because that would be effed up. Okay. Not that he ate much at dinner, and though he tried to keep his tone cheerful, he did not engage in conversation, and gave short replies to direct questions. When Ron asked him if something was wrong, he explained he was tired but feeling fine. At the end of the meal, Harry pushed his plate away, with a small pop, and a folded parchment appeared in front of him, and fell where his plate had just been. Harry, it read, "Please come to my chambers after dinner. Severus." Ooh. Harry folded the paper and tucked it away. Before anyone noticed, he left the hall without looking back at the head table or the potions master still seated there. Harry fetched his invisibility cloak and told Ron that Snape wanted to hold another occlumency lesson. Then returned again to the dungeon. Outside the man's room, Harry tapped his wand on the alarm stone rather than alerting I'm going to say the bust. That's because it's a bust. That's what it is. To his presence. Even if the statue still let him in, Harry wanted to make the point to Snape. If this was how he wanted things, this is how they would be. The archway shimmered into sight, and Harry removed his cloak. As he stepped into the room, he stopped just far enough inside to allow the wall to reform. Severus stood across the room. "Harry, I wasn't sure if you would respond to my invitation." "I wasn't aware I had a choice, Professor." Severus sighed heavily. "Of course you had a choice." "Then I can leave?" Harry asked, his voice neutral. "Well, then I can leave." Harry asked, his voice neutral. He was not sure if he wanted to leave, but knowing whether or not he had a choice was important. People were like, "Harry, stay strong, my dear, sweet, too trusting boy." Yeah, what he said. "No, you ass, sit the fuck down. Kiss your Severus like you mean it." Show him who's boss, I guess. That's what the person meant. And that was held for review because it said the F word. Okay. He was not sure if he wanted to leave, but knowing whether or not he had the choice was important. "Yes." The man's voice sounded tired. He looked tired, too, Harry noticed. He hadn't looked that tired even when Harry had entered moments before. He realized Severus had lowered his guard. "But please hear me out first." Harry did not turn around, and Severus came closer until they were nearly touching. I understand why you're upset. I do not blame you, but I hope you believe that I did not intend to hurt you or humiliate you. I have done that far, far too many times already. This time, though, It did not occur to me what my words meant. I was one who abused my position, and I have no right to do that. I just need to know that you think of me as an equal. I meant what I said before about giving me detention in the classroom. That's different. But I can't come here anymore if you're going to be Severus sometimes and Professor Snape others. And you shouldn't have to worry about that, Severus replied. He caught Harry's hand in his own and held it gently. What you doing, Mum? See, I heard her pitter-patter feet. You couldn't hear it, but it's just the slightest of her weight. Well, she's open packaging. Oh, whatever. I just need to know. What? Not right now. Well, you can eat it. you can eat it. You can eat it. Yeah, you can. If you will forgive me, I promise never to do that again. Mom's hijacking the video. And you shouldn't have to worry about that. Wait, what? If you will forgive me, I promise never to do that again. Harry replied by again offering the embrace that had been refused 3 nights before. This time it was accepted as Severus's strong arms held him close. He felt secure, as if some hurdle had been overcome and new understanding reached. Back on the couch, Severus's fingers gently ran through Harry's hair, up and down the back of his neck, as he laid a... What? You have food. Do you have greenies? No, you can't have greenies until 42 minutes. Why? What? What, Emmy? My cat's hijacking my video too. What is it with people today? What? Why were you meowing at me? Severus's fingers gently ran through... whatever. Laid his cheek against the man's chest. You were half right about Theodore, Severus said softly. He does need to talk to someone, but I'm not the right choice. Why not? Harry was enjoying the physical contact far too much to move. I don't know where that came from. Where he was, even when he had been mad at Severus. He had missed the contact. He blames me, Severus replied. I could have prevented his marking, but I did nothing, and now his life is in danger, and he will forever be branded as a Death Eater. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. What did you say to him? What could I tell him? I explained that anything I did to stop the marking would have revealed me as a traitor, and at the time we did not know you could protect me. Harry lifted his head to catch Severus's eyes. That's not why you let the markings go on. I know that, but if he did not go to the Dark Lord willingly, it is better that he thinks I was too weak to interfere than know that I believe he desired it. He seemed to want it at the time. The Dark Lord certainly thought he did. Will you talk to him? It doesn't matter if he hates me or not, but he needs to share this burden. I'll try, but Ron may be a better choice. He and Not seem to be getting along okay. I'm sure you planned on that, though. Pairing him with you would have been a tempting target for any supporters of the Dark Lord in class. Weasley seemed a safer partner for him. I am gratified that decision paid off. I'll leave him to you and your friends, then, for now. We're going to start a club soon. All the Hogwarts students that the Dark Lord wants to kill. With Not, we've enough to start our own Quidditch team and keep an alternate on the bench. Severus responded with a throaty chuckle. Harry returned his head to his place on the man's chest. Is that why you were upset the other day? Yes, Severus replied. I am truly sorry for what I said to you. I'm not used to anyone caring that I'm upset. Being left alone has become standard fare. I don't normally need to tell anyone I'm not in the mood to talk about something. I know, Harry said, and I forgive you. He raised his head again and pressed a soft kiss on Severus's lips. He thrilled at the touch. It was the first time he had instigated a kiss with the man, and knowledge that he could do that. The knowledge he could do that without a single doubt that it would be returned, enjoyed, even desired, was heady indeed. Once they had settled back into their customary positions, Severus's lips brushing Harry's neck periodically to send shivers down the spine. The potion master spoke again. I had nearly forgotten. I have worked out a better method for Not and me to contact you. Should we need your help? It is not quite ready, but should be soon. What did you have in mind? Harry asked, wondering what form it would take. Severus summoned a small box over and opened it so Harry could see. Inside was a simple-looking band of flat metal. The charms are working, but I am not satisfied with its appearance. Severus explained. Plucking it from the box, Harry examined it. The bracelet appeared to be made of silver, polished brightly, a few centimeters wide. What's wrong with it? It is far too reminiscent of shackles as it currently exists. It is bad enough you are chained to the Dark Lord, as well as Not and me, in rhetorical sense. You don't need such a physical symbol of that. Don't be silly. It's lovely already. How does it work? Without letting Severus complain again that it was not ready to be worn, he slipped the band on. It shrank slightly to fit comfortably on his wrist without the risk of it falling off. Suddenly he felt a tingle in his arm. Nothing painful, but certainly enough to get his attention or even wake him up. Look at the band now, Severus told him. Harry pushed his sleeve back and to see the name, Severus Snape, etched in the surface. Beside the name, an arrow pointed back to Harry, and threw him to where Severus sat, at Harry's back. Harry stretched his arm out and swept it back and forth, watching as the arrow moved around, stay fixed on Severus's position. That's brilliant, Harry said, beaming. It will be the same for Not. He will be given a smaller item to wear that will be bound to this one. I thought I would let him choose the form as it needed not even enough surface to display a name. Harry nodded in response, his fingers tracing the words as they faded, leaving an unembellished silver surface. What's yours look like? Harry asked. Severus cast another summoning charm and opened his palm to see a plain silver ring. The man slipped it over his middle finger. I should start wearing this now. If you insist on taking the bracelet with you, I took some liberty with this particular ring. Concentrate on the bracelet. Focus on my name at the same time. Harry obeyed, and Severus held his hand out, palm up. He showed him the underside of the ring. Small letters on the ring spelled out Harry, and a tiny arrow pointed at him. I spelled both items to work one way. My ring will not show me where you are unless you activate your bracelet, and vice versa. The exception is if the target is unable to sense the spell. Should I use my ring to contact you, it will instead show me your whereabouts if you are unconscious. Anything more active between the two pieces can be dangerous, as they would be noticed by any device that detects communication spells. Harry was overwhelmed. He had long since realized that Severus had never allowed any harm to come to him, but now he had gone out of his way to make sure he had always have a way to call for help. Also, Severus continued, this allows us some privacy. You do not have to feel as if I am keeping tabs on your whereabouts. For now, they are only useful in emergencies. Harry nodded, understanding that they both had moments when they might not want to be found unless it was necessary. It's perfect, Severus. Thank you. Placing a soft kiss on Harry's neck, Severus said, You're doing it again. I should be thanking you for being willing to wear it. It's not a gift without cost to you. True, but the same could be said for you. If you didn't make it just so I could help you, after all, Harry pointed out. You're being nice again. Nonsense, Severus replied, though the word was muffled, as he was once again nibbling on Harry's collarbone. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. Ashneko. Some emojis. Yas! I love their playful banter so much. Same, me too, ditto. I'm just wondering if they're going to consummate. If you don't know what that is, it's Devil's Tango, which, if you don't know what that is, you know, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You know what I mean? No, don't do the, if you can't, yeah. If you can't put in the time, don't do the crime. Basically saying. So, sorry, my throat got, really dry. So the next chapter will come up soon. I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be right back in just a second. I'm back. I finished my what was I eating? My Mexican food. I am trying to get myself to drink some water right now, so I don't know why it fizzes like that. It doesn't have any, like, purified water. Oh, calcium chloride and carbonate. Well, duh, it's carbonation. Yep, I can definitely taste the salt. If you haven't yet, try, wow, that made noises. 24, correct? Harry dodged an incoming blasting curse, responding with a jinx of his own before ducking into a doorway. Wait, what? Okay, there we go. I had to burp, and I couldn't stop burping. Okay. Harry dodged an incoming blasting curse and responded with a jinx of his own before ducking into a doorway. He was still a bit surprised that his plan had worked. At the far end hallway, Hermione, Neville, Ginny were trying to sort out the locking spell he had put on the only door leading out to the out of the corridor. Meanwhile, Professor Jones, Luna, and Ron were alternately deflecting Harry's spells and responding with their own. Severus stood in the middle of the group, focusing all his attention on taking the offense against Harry. Training had taken another turn over the past week. Harry was now pitted against the rest. Severus generally acted the part of Voldemort, Harry's target, while the rest guarded him. The arrangement served two purposes. Voldemort would certainly be protected by Death Eaters under orders to defend their lord with their lives, and Harry's friends needed to learn to defend Harry, while he was preoccupied with the Dark Lord and unable to defend himself. Risking a quick look down the hall, Harry saw what the whole group had turned its attention to, the door. It looked like they were all going to cast an opening charm at once. With Severus in their group, they had the advantage here in the dungeon, and Harry doubted he would have another opportunity to trap them if they succeeded. He tossed a stinging hex at the group, which Professor Jones easily deflected. Watching anxiously for them to risk a group spell, his guess proved correct. When they all raised their wands and Hermione nodded her head at the cue, as a cue. Alohomora! All seven chanted at once. Stupefy! Harry said at the same time. Distracted by their own spell, the group had no time to react to Harry's. Sparks and light shot out of the protective shield they had erected over themselves. But Harry's spell won through. As one, they collapsed in a pile. Not a little shocked at his success, he trotted over to them and restored them one by one to consciousness. Well done, Mr. Potter, Professor Jones said as they sorted themselves out. Harry smiled at the compliment as Ron and Neville jostled him with slaps on his back. Harry turned his eyes to Severus and was greeted with a subtle stirring of the man's mouth. So small few would have noticed it. In Harry's mind, the potion's master was beaming at him. The door's still locked, Hermione said, examining the handle closely. I thought we'd cast the spell before Harry got us. We did, Severus replied. His wand played over the latch. His wand played over the latch and turned to Harry. What charm did you use on this? Harry grinned again and confessed to having tried one of the spells Flitwick had secured a trapdoor at Honeyduke's with. Oh no! Our spell should have been enough power to open it, though Alohomora is not the normal counter spell. Severus muttered a spell under his breath and twitched his wand at the door. The latch glowed briefly, then faded, still locked, raising an eyebrow at Harry that the young man could not quite decipher. He tried again, though this time he was clearly concentrating more intently on the handle. The latch lit up brighter, and Severus remained focused on it until the door swung open silently. I believe tonight's lessons are over, Severus said, glancing at Professor Jones, who nodded in agreement. Yes, well done, all of you. Harry may have gotten the best of us, she added good-naturedly, but you all handled your tasks admirably. Hopelessly lost from the chase, the students and Jones needed Severus to guide them back to the potions classroom. Jones wished them a good night, and Harry self-consciously playing the role of, well, someone who has not yearning for a good-night kiss from Severus, turned with his friends to leave. Pleasantly, he was stopped by Severus's request, and he remained behind. When Neville favored him with a sympathetic look, he responded with what he hoped was vague mixture of worry and annoyance. Severus closed the door and asked, You have your cloak? Harry smiled and nodded, pulling the shimmering cloth from where it had been stuffed in his bag beneath his books. He knew the drill. Severus had a firm rule against any kind of formality outside of his suite. For his part, Harry did not mind. The only other opportunities they had to be alone were generally in the potions classroom, and it was close enough to the private rooms to matter little. Harry appreciated the convenience of the boundary. Even with Severus not being a spy, both had a part to play in public, and Severus's rule kept any haziness between their roles and true selves at bay. He suspected Severus still felt guilty about inadvertently hurting him a few weeks prior. Professor Snape never entered the rooms with Harry. It was always Severus. So, as had become common in the past few weeks, Harry slipped invisible through the archway as Severus led the way. The older man, I almost called him old man, he ain't that old, asked as he might be 18 years older. I'm thinking that James and Lily had him like when they were really young, like 18. That's what I'm thinking, because they really liked each other in high school, and I'm pretty sure that right when they graduated, they probably got together and made Harry. The older man asked as he headed into the kitchen, not needing to wait for Harry to reappear to know he was in the room. No thanks. Harry tossed his cloak over the back of the chair and joined Severus, greeting him with a soft kiss. I didn't think you'd invite me back tonight. You've been looking so tired lately. Up late pickling kittens or something? Severus chuckled at the remark and took his tea to the couch. Up late trying to teach advanced magic to an irreverent squib with the brains of a pickled kitten, actually. Oh, no, Harry said, settling beside him. You can't blame it on me. We haven't been practicing that late. It's only 3 nights a week. He suddenly grew serious, suspicious. You haven't been spying, have you? Of course not. I am quite useless in that regard now. Thanks to you and Miss Lovegood. Thanks to you and Miss Lovegood. And I have already promised you I would not leave the grounds without your knowledge. Harry nodded, trusting Severus's words. Then what is it? I told you, it's training sessions. They are hardly beyond my capacity, but even 3 nights a week, they are draining. He sipped his tea, looking at Harry suspiciously. Surely you are feeling the same way. Your friends certainly are. Though now that I think of it, you do not display the same signs of fatigue that they do. Why would I? We don't do that much running around. I'm speaking of magical exertion, not physical. His eyes narrowed a bit. How is it that you do not feel tired after night's activities? Harry, you have been taking some kind of energy potion? I haven't. Harry's first instinct was to be offended of the accusation. Such potions were generally both dangerous and addictive. But the look of concern on Severus's face caused him only to want to reassure him that there was nothing to be worried about. I honestly don't know what you're talking about. Why would doing magic make me tired? You're expending energy. Surely you realize the magical power comes from the wizard casting the spell. The more powerful the spell, the greater the cost. Maybe I just haven't been casting very powerful spells. Maybe I haven't been casting powerful spells. Not only did you get your stupefy spell through the shield Weasley had constructed, you knocked all of us out with a single cast. That alone would have left many wizards too unsteady to walk. Not only that, but your locking charm. Severus trailed off, still talking, but too low for Harry to hear. What was that about the locking charm? I said, Severus replied, staring stubbornly at his tea, that my first attempt to dispel the charm was too weak and failed. Harry blinked. Too weak? But you used a counter-charm for it, didn't you? How can that be too weak? They can be. It is almost never an issue, as counterspells are designed specifically to overcome a single spell. They target known weaknesses in the spell, so they only have to be strong enough to break the weakest part. That usually means that almost no effort is needed to use them. Alohomora failed, as is not entirely unusual. It is a general opening spell and would have had to break through the spell directly. Still, the charm you used would not normally have lasted against our group work, nor does it normally repel the counter spell. While it may not have been a complex piece of magic, it was stronger than most wizards could have managed in a situation like that. He caught Harry's gaze and held it. You are far more powerful than I ever realized. Perhaps we never knew because you lacked the skill to use that power. I have only known one other wizard who could defeat a half-dozen wizards and show no sign of weakening. Knowing who Severus meant, Harry shivered. I hate when people compare me to him. I know you do, and so do I, but in this case, I find the similarity singularly comforting. Pleased by the compliment, but still unnerved by the underlying importance of his own power, Harry summoned a textbook from the shelf as a silent request to change the subject. Severus said no more about it. Harry lifted the man's arm and draped it across his own shoulders. As he moved closer to him, the pair slipped again into silence as Harry started on his homework. An hour or so later, Severus's fingers slipped through Harry's hair, a signal that he was about to send Harry back to his dormitory. Harry closed his book and paused, sensing more than a usual good night in the man's eyes. Regarding what I said about not leaving the school without telling you, my morning classes will be canceled tomorrow, and the afternoon as well if necessary. Harry resisted the urge to protest. Acting childish would accomplish nothing. Where are you going? I can say this. I can say it because I remember it. I just can't say it. Slavika. See, I can't say it. Slavika. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. The order has word that Kirchhoff wishes to speak to me. Kirchhoff? Wait. What does he want? We do not know anything for certain. It's unclear if he knows of my certain situation. He must know that I work for the Order, but he may not be aware that I am no longer in the Dark Lord's favor. Do you trust him? Severus chuckled softly. I don't trust anyone. Well, at most 2 people. But that is not the issue. He may be a great asset if he is willing to side with us. His knowledge of the dark arts surpasses mine. See the issues I have, and that is no small thing. Harry sighed and laid his head on Severus's chest. As the only practitioner of dark arts and that the Order had, Severus's expertise was a limiting factor in anticipating and fighting Voldemort's attacks. Kirchhoff. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It just makes me very, very, very self-conscious. Kirchhoff's aid could be a deciding factor in the war. He knew that the Order would risk whatever was necessary to gain his help. It may not even be Kirchhoff, though, Harry pointed out. Do we know for sure it's him? His letter made a reference to some work he and I did together in the last war. It is possible that we are dealing with an impostor, but I am as satisfied of his identity as I likely can be without meeting him face to face. Can someone else go? He will only meet with me. With a small sigh, Harry gave in and accepted that Severus would again have to put himself in danger. Are you worried? No, Severus said simply. I shall be wearing my ring. Now you're teasing. No, I'm not. Harry looked up to see the speculative gaze of Severus on him. Smiling, he cut the man's lips with his own, and after a moment pulled back. That may be the greatest compliment you've ever given me, you know. Severus smirked. It is probably the only compliment I have ever given you. Harry laughed. True. Sleep came in jagged, broken bits, as the dull glow of dawn heralded the coming day. Harry woke up, gasping and terrified. He had no memory of the dream that had left him in the state of panic, but he had a good idea who it had been about. Ron came over to his bed and touched him gingerly, as if afraid Harry might attack him or bolt for the door. You okay? Harry blinked a few times at his friend before becoming fully conscious. Yeah, sorry, just a bad dream. Think you should talk to Dumbledore? Ron asked, no doubt, thinking back to the visions of last year. I don't think it was Voldemort, Harry replied, though the words sounded unconvincing as he spoke them. Severus had planned on leaving before dawn for daybreak. Had he been captured? Was Voldemort sending him visions of the Potion Master's fate to torment him? I'm going to check in on him, just to be sure. Ron looked worried, but agreed that it was the only way to be sure Harry was not under attack. Cautiously and terrified, No, you moron! Cautiously and terrified of what he might see, Harry slipped into Voldemort's mind. The book closed before he could make out any of the writing, but he caught a glimpse of unfamiliar characters before the moldy leather cover shut. The dried, scaly husk of his right hand took up a familiar looking wand and traced a glowing figure over the book. The cover flashed with the same symbol. Then both book and sigil faded from sight. Harry opened his eyes again in the Gryffindor Tower. He was reading some book. I didn't feel anything too bad. Just a bad dream, then? Ron said. Relieved while practicing with the Scar Bond, Harry had seen Voldemort reading any number of indecipherable manuscripts and scrolls. The might of Dark Lord was gained through knowledge as much as strength, and Voldemort intended to gain as much as he could. That Voldemort was spending his time and something as mundane as reading was reassuring and suggested that he had not been sending Harry any dreams. I'm going to try to get some more sleep before breakfast then. Harry agreed he would try too, but doubted the morning would be any more restful than the night had been. At breakfast, the news of Severus's absence was met with the expected good humor. Ron gave him a knowing look, but Harry waved off the questions as he watched the Slytherin table for the reaction. if any spies were reporting back to Voldemort, they would have orders to let him know when the professor was away. Dumbledore did not give any details, of course, but even before his betrayal, the man rarely missed a single class. No one Harry watched reacted oddly, though he hoped that indicated that there were no spies at all. Logic told him, though, that any spy would be far too good of an actor to betray themselves. Ron finally got his attention as he leaned over his plate and whispered, "A bit worried last night, then?" Not now," Harry replied. Severus's whereabouts and Harry's own worry were not topics he wanted to discuss surrounded by his fellow students. It caught Hermione's attention, though. She gave Harry a look that told him the answers would be had. They left the great hall before most had finished breakfast, and found a quiet alcove. You knew he was going to be gone?" Ron asked. "He told me last night when he had me stay after our lesson, just in case. They knew about the charmed bracelet he wore. That's gone. He's gone to meet Karkaroff. I'm going to call him KK. That's what I'm going to call him. Or Kaka. No, I'm going to call him KK. Kaka just seems rude. KK. Somewhere. Hopefully he'll be back before lunch. But who knows?" Harry sighed with concern. "Is there something you're not telling us about Professor Snape?" Hermione asked. Harry's head snapped in surprise. How now? Now was not the time to get into everything he was not telling about Severus. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You were more worried than you should be." "Do you think it's a trap? Did you see something from Voldemort?" Harry relaxed a little, relieved that she didn't quite guess the problem. "No, I didn't. Actually, Voldemort probably didn't know anything about it last night. He may find out, though, now that Dumbledore announced that he was away. If there's a spy in the school, they're going to report back about it. He explained about his nightmare and Ron's concerns, and described how Voldemort did not seem to be anything unusual at the time. Just have hope for the best, then," Ron pointed out. Okay, that hurts. I was looking at my phone in an angle that hurt my neck. Okay. Ouch. Lunch came and went with no sign of Severus. Harry's only comfort came from the silence of his bracelet. If he heard anything by dinner, If he heard nothing but by dinner, he decided he would activate the charm and see what happened. For now, though, he had only his trust in Severus's skills as a spy and wizard. With potions class cancelled for the afternoon, Hermione hurried off to the library once again, and Ron and Harry loitered in the common room. Harry fidgeted with his bracelet, and it did not take long for Ron to notice. Keeping his voice low to avoid eavesdroppers, Ron said, "You're more worried than you want to admit." "Of course I'm worried," Harry replied. "I don't want anyone to get caught by Voldemort. You know that." "I do, but you keep trying to look like you're not freaking out, even though you are. You've really got to get over this crush, you know." Someone said, "It's just it's not just a crush anymore, Ronnie, my boy. Yeah, that's what someone commented, and I have to agree with them on that. Harry blushed. He had hoped Ron had forgotten about their discussion from last month. He certainly thought he had been more circumspect. But Ron knew him better than anyone else, except maybe Hermione. And she was too preoccupied with the dark mark research to notice anything. Harry was about to reassure Ron with nothing was going on when a feeling of déjà vu came over him. The past few years had seen him bearing his true feelings and lying to his friends and himself about them. He was no longer content to live that way. It's not just a crush, Ron. It's more than that. Wait, what? I love how Ron is presented much more like how he is in the book, less like the mindless git, like a lot. Okay, other fanfics make him out to be. Yeah. He's actually more smarter than he is in the book than he is in the movies, too. It's more than a crush. It's more like I love, baby, I'ma make you mine. And what? And I ain't giving up. Nice. That's funny. I like that one. Well, I'm sure you feel that way. Wait, okay. It's not just a crush, Ron. It's more than that. He stared at his hands, not wanting to meet his friend's gaze. Ron had been supportive so far, but was there a limit to how much he wanted to hear? Well, I'm sure you feel that way, Harry, Ron said patiently. And I'm not about to tell you what you feel. But you're only going to drive yourself crazy if you can't move on. I guess it's not easy but I had a thing for Lavender and found out she was a lesbian. What? What did I just read? I'd be crazy if I didn't try to forget her. Huh. Lamau. Someone just said that. This is different, though. Harry looked up and grinned. He knew he should not say anything without... Mom, did you come inside? She must have. Without Severus's okay. It was as much Severus's secret as his own, after all. But somehow he never got around to asking the man about telling his friends. What if you had a thing for Lavender and knew she was straight? And had a thing for you, too. That's not the point, is it? Ron argued. Then his eyes grew wide. Is that the point? Harry, Harry had to laugh at his friend's expression. Keep your voice down, will you? He said. And yes, that is the point. There's nothing between us, nothing much, at least. But it's not quite the lost cause you assumed it to be. Ron stared at him for a minute. So, Snape's... He looked around in the common room again and for the eavesdroppers. He's gay. Yeah. But no one really knows. I guess the teachers do, but probably none of the students. He knew about swearing Ron to secrecy was unusual. His friend would never betray him. And he knows about you? Harry asked. Well, he figured it out when he came into the room this summer. I was waiting. No, please, no. Don't do this to me. Oh, no. Harry, shame on you. I don't know where that accent came from, but whatever. Well, he figured it out when he came into my room this summer. I was waiting for him naked in bed. Harry was seriously. Ron's face alternately from pale, then bright red. Harry! The Gryffindor, still in the room, took notice, looking over at the pair in surprise as Ron's exclamation and Harry laughing. I'm joking. He told me about himself first. Actually, it was a part of all the problems I had with him last year, the beginning of the summer. So that's what you couldn't tell us about? Some of it, yeah. The rest had to do with how my father treated him when they were in school. He was pretty horrible to Severus, partially because he was gay, but mostly because he could be, I guess. Anyway, once everything between us was out in the open, we just got past it. You know, most of the rest. We started getting along better, then we sort of became friends. Then, right around when Newt came back, Ron waved his arms protectively in front of himself. It's fine. I don't need to know. Harry laughed again at his friend. I told you, there's really nothing happening. I'm just spending time with him. I finished my occlumency lessons during the summer, actually. Lately, they've been an excuse. He's there if I need him, and I'm there if he needs me. Well, I guess I can't argue with that, but Ron frowned. Listen, mate, you know I don't hate Snape, right? Anymore? Right? Right, buddy? But you're my best friend, and I'm probably never going to think anyone's good enough for you. So let's get this out of the way right off. Harry chuckled. You're pretty much the only thing keeping him alive right now, aren't you? What happens when we beat you-know-who and the dark mark goes back to being just an ugly tattoo? Harry reminded himself that his friend was just looking out for him, and managed to storm off. Calmer, wait. I want to look at what the comment said. The one about this when he was laughing at him. Someone like the rolling laughing one. Harry, no. Harry, yes. No! Why do you do this, people? I understand it, but why? The ugly tattoo? OMG, Ron. And then the woman, another person said, a true friend. Yeah, I understand that. Like, no one's going to be good enough for you in my eyes, but I'm going to be real with you about it, yeah. Well, first, he knows I'd protect him even if he didn't say he cared about me. I'm doing the same for Newt. Newt. Why am I thinking of Newt right now? Not. Did I call him Newt before? I'm an idiot. Not, after all. And I've told him and Dumbledore I'll help anyone who wants to get away from Voldemort. Second, I just don't think he will. But you're not sure? No, I suppose not, but who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know who I'm going to be once all of this is over. How can I expect him to be there when I may not come out of all this unchanged? But he's not planning on using me for protection and running off as soon as he doesn't need me. I'm sure of that much. When Ron said nothing, Harry asked, "Are you okay with this?" "I guess. If nothing's really happened, there's nothing to be okay with, right? Let's just leave it at that for now." Grinning and relieved, Harry agreed, and the pair decided to search out Hermione and see how her research was progressing. They found Hermione, but never had a chance to ask her about the studies. Moments after entering the research room, Harry felt his wrist and his arm tingle, and his heart thudded painfully in his chest. Severus floated across the silver band. Not wasting a time, he sped off to the headmaster's office, and Ron and Hermione following closely behind. The gargoyle moved before Harry realized he did not know the password, and he nearly bowled into Dumbledore as he stepped out of the alcove. "Is something wrong, my boy?" the headmaster asked. "Severus," Harry said, panting. "My bracelet. He needs me." "Oh, dear. Well, no need to panic, children. Has it just started?" Harry, still breathless, nodded. "No need to panic? Are you insane?" Dumbledore sent a streak of silver light through a wall and ushered them into his office. Harry was about to demand that they do something immediately. Then a familiar cat dashed into the office, leapt into the air, and transformed into Professor McGonagall. "What is it, Albus, and that demands such haste? Is it Severus?" she asked when she was in human form. "It appears so. He had activated the ring he uses to alert Harry if he is under attack of the Dark Lord. I need you to go to Silvica immediately and bring Severus back. Karkaroff as well, if he too needs our aid. Of course, you can portkey me to the meeting place." "I'm going too," Harry insisted. If he's been moved, you won't be able to find him. My bracelet will point to him." "Mr. Potter, I realize," McGonagall said. "He's dying," Harry pleaded. "I have my invisibility cloak, and I'll stay under it. But he needs me. We're running out of time. Voldemort's careful, but he's not stupid. He'll kill him as fast as he thinks he can safely do it." McGonagall turned to Dumbledore, who in turn nodded. "You both will go. Minerva, you can follow Harry as a cat, yes?" "I don't need to see what I can hear and smell. If he stays invisible, I suppose we can avoid problems." "Quickly, then," Dumbledore said, taking a candy wrapper from his desk. "Portus!" Branches and barriers closed in on a wooded path, but it was not yet overgrown. The packed dirt showed him nothing useful. He could tell the path was used fairly often, though he hardly had the skill to know how recently or by whom. Ahead, Harry spotted an abandoned cabin. The moldering roof had collapsed on itself ages ago. Thick green moss covered the exposed beams. Harry pulled his cloak about him and entered the clearing. He watched his bracelet, the circle. He circled the ruin and the arrow fixed in the building and turned toward it as he moved, telling Harry that the cabin was his destination. He pointed, letting just his hand appear through the cloak, and McGonagall's feline form streaked ahead, treading carefully around fallen timber to peer inside. Harry saw her enter then moments later she reappeared human again, beckoned him urgently to follow. He skidded to a halt when he spotted Severus curled up on the ground, a dark bundle of rags beneath a tattered cloak. Karkaroff lay in the similar position. Harry did not take his own cloak off before sliding his hand up Severus's sleeve. Harry woke to find McGonagall standing over him, looking terrified. "Oh, thank heavens! I feared the worst. You screamed, then you suddenly stilled. I feared." Harry pushed her hands away and sat up. Severus's eyes were open and on him. Only his own nausea kept him from leaping into the man's arms. McGonagall's a watchful eye withstanding. Without a word, the potion master shifted the gaze to Karkaroff, and Harry remembered the other person he was here to save. Having no idea of the man who was even alive, Harry sorted through his clothes and found his sleeve. Luckily, Voldemort placed traditional above subtlety, and all Death Eaters wore their mark in the same place. Harry managed to maintain consciousness this time, but only barely. The pain and disorientation were bad, but less than what he had felt with Nott. Voldemort had probably pulled back once Harry had freed Severus moments before. He fell backwards, pulling his hand free of Karkaroff's mark, just as Voldemort released his grip on the man. Harry collapsed between the two former Death Eaters, gripping his stomach tightly in an attempt to keep it from emptying. Taking deep breaths, Harry managed to sit up. Severus's hand on his back stroked over and over so lightly back and forth, partially from weakness, Harry thought, and partially because they were not alone, until it comforted him to know that Severus would reach out for him at all while others might see. Oh, friggin' A! The ad. I was reading and then I went up. I know. I'm a bad person. I'm sorry. I know. Shame on me. Pat, pat. There you go. Slap. There you go. You got a couple of slaps on my face. Okay. Going back. Okay. Others might see. Now a headache was building, and Harry concentrated on getting his own body back to normal. Before worrying about how the rest were doing, they were both alive, he knew, and that was enough for him for now. He tried to shut out the memory of how it had felt when he first entered Severus's mind. The throbbing of his head was just starting to subside when what little was left of the roof caught fire. Well, you know what? Sugar honey iced tea. There we go. Oh, man. Oh, it's only 34. I thought it was longer than that. I thought it was 54. 20. It was long. That's why. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. I sure did. Oh, I should tell you the story. So, my dad's bad with technology. And, when you drop your phone, you try to put your foot in front of it to let the blow land softly. My dad was a little bit too late, and he punted it to the right across one room to another room in the house, and the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And I said, well, my Wi-Fi doesn't work at your house anyway, so maybe you knocked some sense into your phone to actually tell the truth. I don't know. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. And I hope I get the scholarship. I will let you know what happens and with the scholarship and whatnot. And don't worry, when I go to college, I'm still going to do videos. I'm not that stupid. I am stupid. I ain't that stupid. Thank you guys for watching. Be happy, be healthy, and always be loving. I love you. Bye-bye.